Hey, Call It crew, and welcome to another episode of Call It Short and Sweet. Jessica, what do we have today?
Well, today on this short and sweet, we have some fan questions, a little Q&A.
Love a Q&A.
They have a little Q, we have a little A.
Let's get into it.
So number one, Rita has written in and she said, regarding Grays, when you portray characters for such a long time, do you get any input when it comes to storylines? For example, romances, pregnancies, career changes. Also, is the water hot or cold?
That's really funny.
I'm guessing in the showers that we take.
Yes.
In scenes.
Yes. Well, first off, we'll just answer the shower question because it would be so mean if it was cold. It's definitely warm water. Thank God.
It's not exactly, but you answered correctly. It's warm. It's not hot. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get into a hot shower now. It's not.
No.
I'm going to get into this cozy shower. Also,
No.
there's people around you and the door's open and you've got like some sort of intimacy, something on. You're covering your bits and bobs. So it's either, your top or your bottom.
Yeah, I covered my bits and bobs for a shower scene that you had to stand by. Do you remember? Joe
Yes,
hopped
I
into
do.
the shower and she was like, and I forget what I was even talking about, but I had to get a little bits and bobsies around you, around Miss Arizona Robbins, because we were living together. Why? Why were we living together? In the Meredith house.
Do you really want to ask me that?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, so when you portray characters for such a long time, you get input on the storylines. Yeah, we get to suggest stuff. We get to suggest things.
You just answer. We are on Call It What It Is. You are the best at constantly thinking about storylines for yourself, for others. You think about it all the time.
I love a good pitch. I do.
Yeah. In my situation, the romances were hard.
No, you don't. You're not pitching your own romance on the show.
No, you're definitely not.
No.
And I mean, in my case, I was on the show for 10 years and it's the push-pull. I mean, I remember as a viewer, you're watching and I completely championed Meredith. And I was like, Meredith and Derek together forever. Like, absolutely, you cannot pull them apart. And at the same time, you can't just watch people be happy. Like, you can't, that's boring. You can't just watch them be happy and happy and happy. And so even though as a viewer, I was tortured by the things that came in between them, they were completely necessary. So I always knew that. And I felt in my on-screen ship, which was Calzona, it was like, okay, great. They're happy and that's wonderful. And we want them to be together. And yes, that's right. And you champion that romance. And we need a little friction. We need a little obstacle. We need to throw in a little
Well, they threw in a meteor.
I mean, so many though. God.
I mean, They threw in a Wowzer browser.
But so many of those, so many.
Yeah.
We had infidelity. We had, I mean,
I remember, what's really funny is I remember Jessica getting the infidelity script, which is one of my favorite season finales because of that moment, which is just incredible. You guys all know what I'm talking about. The rings on the pin to the scrubs. And I remember someone saying to Capshaw, "You're gonna have to get off social media for a little bit," and she was like, "Yep." We knew that meteor was going to rock the fandom. Huge Grey's Anatomy fan. Is Jessica Capshaw's... Oh, I know. People ask this all the time.
I know.
Is Jessica's daughter's name Josephine because of Camilla's character, Joe Wilson, on the show? I'm so curious. And yes, it is. Right, Jessica?
Of course it is. I named her after you.
Not even me, just the character, because you loved
your
her
alter
so much.
ego on television. No, we already know with my memory. I probably forgot that your name was Josephine.
Yeah, she didn't even know it was Josephine, you guys. She hadn't. She's learning that right now. You're learning it right now in this.
I thought it was just Joe. I love the name Josephine, and you know what? We have 3 girls, so that was our 3rd time at naming a baby girl, and I gotta tell you, that's challenging because you really only usually have top 1 or 2, and then we already had 2, so we got to the long names, the list of beautiful long names, and she certainly can handle it. I love her name so much.
Okay, next.
Now it's just a bonus, by the way, that it's your other name.
I know.
Okay, Marie wrote in and she said, how did both of your lives change or develop when you started becoming more famous? Isn't famous a funny word? Because I'm like, famous. Oh, okay.
I know. I don't. Yeah.
I just feel like me. Um, I think that uh it just honestly, I don't think of myself as such. And so when I'm out in the world, and you never know when you're going to be around people who do or do not know you from whatever it is that you've done. So I just conduct my life and do my things the way that I would. And then if someone does come up and say something, I think that I try very hard to always just be really responsive to whatever someone's feeling or thinking or saying in that moment. I think I'm a little bit more aware of myself because I'm also
Mm.
usually with other people or my children. Um, and I feel very lucky that, most of the time, people are very respectful. I do always feel like when I'm with my kids, I do feel a little like
Yeah.
tug because I'm sort of like, well, my job is to be watching you and someone's, talking to me and my attention's there. So it's just a little bit of a push pull there. But I don't think that I don't feel like I had a moment where I was like, oh, my life is different because of
It's funny. I was just talking about this with Matt because I feel more antisocial actually since the show. It's just such a big show. When I meet new people, it takes me way longer to let them into like in a circle or me feel vulnerable enough to be able to tell them things. So that's the way it's changed, which kind of does I'm gonna say it kind of does suck, but maybe it's a good thing too. I would say and I'm a little more antisocial. Question number 4. What's your all-time favorite moment from Grey's Anatomy? As a viewer, as a fan, or working on the show? Because those
okay,
are
as
two
a
different
fan,
things.
early days, because this is when I watched it again, like the minute that it started on in real life.
Yeah.
Um, I there was no, I say it all the time, there's no more genius storytelling, perfectly executed, acted environment. Everything was perfect in that moment
I know what you're
in
gonna
the
say.
pilot.
Oh no, never mind.
Oh, yeah, in the pilot, when she goes to work and
Mm.
who is there but the boy that she kicked out from the morning before or that morning. So that moment where she goes to work and she's just kicked out the boy that she's, had a nice little romp with
Mm-hmm.
from the bar and she walks into work and there he is and you're like, "Oh." It
Yes.
just sets everything up so perfectly. And then I think the other like, moment would have been, I don't even know what episode it was, but when Addison comes back
That's what I
and she's
thought
like,
you
"Are
were
you
gonna
sleeping with my husband?"
say.
or whatever. What
She's
does she
like,
say?
oh yeah. She says, oh, you're the woman who's been sleeping with my husband or
Yeah,
some
and you're like,
great
"Oh."
we've butchered that line. It's something completely different. But that that was the moment for me because you thought that they were happy. And I was like, oh,
They
this show
were.
is crazy. Anything
Yeah.
can happen. That
Yep.
yes. Yep, we'll say that.
This is an anonymous write-in. What was it like for Camilla when it was announced that Jess was leaving Grey's Anatomy, and how did it affect both of you?
I was very shocked. And there are pictures of me in the table read actually that gets circulated all the time, and I'm just sobbing. I was really sad. It was really hard. It was all about me, right, Jess?
Right, totally,
No,
completely.
it was really no. It was. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It was really hard. I knew that my very, very closest friend on the show was leaving, and if you have a work friend like that, you know what that's like. Your buddy's gone. And I didn't want to lose my buddy, is the truth. Carolina wrote us, and she asked us a question I've never been asked before. What bands do you think would be Arizona Robbins and Joe Wilson's favorites?
I think that Arizona Runs was probably like a big pop princess type listener
Yes.
songs. I feel like I was listening to
Yes.
or Arizona was listening to a lot of like pop music. Like, I think she probably was like in sync.
Yes.
Breakers.
Totally.
Like I think she was definitely roller skating around to that kind of shit.
100%. I think Joe was like a little more teen angst, a little Nirvana, perhaps,
Oh,
a
for sure.
little for sure Nirvana. And I think eventually, I think there's some Alanis Morissette. I know she's not a band, but I think we got to throw Alanis out there.
Love
Maybe
her.
Ashley Simpson's debut album, Undiscovered. Love that album.
Yes, great album.
It's a great album. Ashley, we need more music. Joe Wilson needs more music. I know they're not a band, although she was part of it. There was kind of a band.
Yep.
I'm going to go with those.
Great. Okay, so Summer has written in and she said, how long is a normal day on set and how much work is involved in making just one episode of Grey's Anatomy?
A lot of work is involved. Well, the first part of the question is how long is a normal day on set? Now, after COVID, we try not to go more than 12 hours, but we have pulled a 17 or we've pulled some 17s in our time.
17 is hard.
17 is hard. It's a rare. I would say the days that we do surgery tend to be longer days because surgery, it's just harder to film. And we get a little giddy. We get a little.
Yeah, there's more shots, there's more people, it's more technical. You can't approximate, you need to get it right. Lots of different angles. So yeah, the surgery scenes are a lot. But there's kind of, I mean, in a weird way, there's no normal on that. I mean, you sort of know what to expect, but I remember one of the biggest challenges was I never made, if I was working that day, whether they said I was in one scene or five, I didn't make any other plans that couldn't be changed quickly because sometimes the set's not ready, or sometimes someone called in sick, or sometimes there's, something going on, or I don't know. So you have to easily be able to shift your expectation of what the day is, which is a little bit like being on call, like a real doctor.
It is true.
And then I think that
how much work is involved. You guys, I mean, you see us from our perspective, we're just doing shooting days, but from everyone else's perspective, we have writers working on episodes months before. In fact, they're in the writers' room right now, writing for next season. Then we have pre-production. They have meetings for hair and makeup, set design, all the things. They have to, the director walks through an episode, casting. So I would say weeks and weeks of work is involved, if not sometimes months, of work is involved.
Yeah. And then what ends up happening is that for the actual episode, they will have a start day and work finish day. So typically those run anywhere from 8 to 10 days, usually 10. And they'll start the episode and then finish on, let's say, the 10th day. But then they'll also do this thing where this might be a little too technical, but they'll double up. Well, they'll start another episode before that episode's done. And so they'll have two crews working on two different episodes at the beginning and or end of an episode. But
which is kind of fun.
A lot of work is involved.
A lot of work, but I think that fans might find it fun to know that like we do have these double up episodes. Sometimes there's even two at the end of two as the episode begins. It overlaps by 2 days, and so what that means is sometimes you're, say, in a relationship and you're playing like being broken up and then back together, for example, on the same day. So you're going from, because it once you switch over episodes and start filming another episode on that day, you might have to flip back. So you're going back and forth between story, and you've got to kind of hold all the emotions in your head. And it's a challenge, but it can be, and it's a lot of work for everybody involved, but it can be really fun.
Safia wrote in and she said, can you talk about both of your first episodes of Grey's Anatomy and about meeting the cast members for the first time?
I was so nervous to meet Chandra Wilson, of anybody.
Was she the first person you worked with?
No, Ellen was the first person I worked with. And that was terrifying because I had been given a monologue, a medical monologue the night was done. And it was just me spewing all this medical spiel to Ellen while she had to listen as Meredith. And she was Medusa in this episode. So she was kind of being mean. And I just remember being absolutely terrified, saying a lot. My feedback was like, you're saying a lot, because it was just a mouthful and I was so overwhelmed and I was very intimidated. And But I was most scared to meet Chandra because I felt like this is Bailey, and Chandra,
Ugh.
if you meet her,
Yeah.
is the complete opposite of Bailey.
Yep.
Wonderful,
Kindest, nicest. Yeah.
wonderful. Thank God.
When you first came in, were you a guest or did you?
I came in knowing I was technically a guest star. I came in knowing that I was recurring through the season, and there was an option to make me a series regular at the end.
Right. A little dating before marriage.
A little dating the job before we got married.
Yes.
Were you just yours was different though?
I came in as a guest star. I came in as a guest star, although after having auditioned for the show twice, which
Before that.
yeah. And I came in first as possibly Nurse Rose. I auditioned for the part of Nurse Rose, who was with Derek, which like dodged a bullet there because while she was fantastic and that part was lovely, who wants to come in between Meredith and Derek?
Never.
That's not a good idea.
Never. Terrifying.
Sounds like a very, very not winning proposition. So, as much as I wanted just to be a part of anything that had to do with Grey's Anatomy, phew. And then I came in maybe a year later because they were casting. I think they gave me like dummy sides that wasn't even written for the character.
Yeah.
For a part that Melissa George got, playing one of Meredith's best friends from like medical school, who came in was kind of like a wild child, and she actually was a series regular. I believe she was there for that season. And then I don't know, and I don't remember what ended up happening to her character. But then the third time that there was an opportunity, I actually didn't go in and audition. They just had my 2 auditions and known who I was and knew very much that I wanted to be a part of the show. And so they called and they just offered me a guest star part for 3 episodes that was connected to a medical show. And I remember truly being unbelievably like I couldn't believe my luck. And it also would come at a time in my life where I really hadn't worked in a while. And I think I was a little scared, financially, emotionally, all of it.
Yeah. You talk about this. If you haven't listened to our Mandy Moore episode, go listen to it too after this, because Jessica talks in detail about that feeling before she
really scared. And I had a little baby and all that. So I got I got offered and I said, yes, of course. And then I remember I was going to visit my sister who was in college, and I was going for the week. And I got emailed the script. And I remember just like looking at it immediately, like, what's my name? And I saw Arizona Robbins, which of course I don't know any other. Still to this day, I don't know anyone named Arizona. I wonder if there are any baby Arizonas out there now.
Oh, 100%.
I now I want to know. If you have a baby named Arizona, I want to know about it. So I saw her name and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, it seemed very unique and original. And then you get the script the night before the table read. And I remember coming to Prospect Studios being so nervous, my somatic response to nerves is instant armpit sweat. So sweaty, not
sweats.
smelly, but just like absolute, like
just wet.
It's
just
crazy.
Sweaty, gross.
Sweat.
Yeah.
And I get there and I walked in on the side that Ellen was sitting on, and there was an open chair. And so I just sat there. I'd like met her at parties in passing, and she was like, hi and welcome. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. And I had read through the script, of course, before the read through. And I had noticed that there were all these typos. And I was like, do I say something? Like, I'm brand new. I don't really feel like I should be pointing out that there's typos, but at the same time, like there were a lot of them in my speeches. So I didn't know what to do. And so I thought, oh, she said hi, like she's open the door for talking to me. So I was like, hi, can I just ask you a really quick question? And she said, yeah, of course. I said, what do I do about these typos? And she goes, oh, show me. And so I show her. And as you know, on our show, that they haven't always completely researched every single aspect. And sometimes they leave out like technical terms for things because they're going to insert them later. And when they haven't yet figured it out, they just write the word medical. So in the middle of your speech, it'll say like, I have a
Pass me
transverse
a medical. Yeah,
medical,
yeah.
medical, medical, medical. And I was like, it just says medical a lot. And she looked at me and was like, It's okay. Just say medical." And I nodded and like I understood what that meant. And I was like, I have no idea what she means by that. And
Yeah.
I didn't come to learn until much later. But I then sat down. I did my table read. I went to my costume fitting. Um, that was when all the shoes were lined up, and the costume designer looked at me and said, "What do you think?" And my character worked in peds, and so she pulled out all these different things that she had that might, seem a little bit childlike, and I took them all. I was like, my badge had a lanyard on it that was like Candy Crush colored, and they were all these patches, and I was like, I think put the monkey above my
Oh
name
my
on
God,
my
it's
lab
so
coat.
iconic now, too. Even I, like when I think of your lab coat, I think of that.
I know the little monkey, and then the shoes were laid out, and I was like, what are those? And she said, those are the ones with the wheels on them, and I was like, well, I have to wear those. Those are absolutely what I have to wear. And so I took them home because she said, do you know how to use them? And I said, of course I do.
You're
However,
like,
I'll probably need
yes.
to practice a little bit. And I didn't think I was going to work for a couple days. And they called me that night and said, you work tomorrow. And I looked
Oh
at Christopher and
God.
was like, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to need to learn how to use these. So he held my hands
Oh
as
my
as he
God.
pulled me along. Cause when you don't have it, your balance is so off. And then I remember practicing around, I had a kitchen island, and I would just hold the side and like inch along to learn how to do it. Um, and that was, and then you kind of meet everyone at the table read, but not really. And then I went
No,
to work the
yeah.
next day, and I worked with Chandra and Justin, and everybody was so nice. They couldn't have been nicer. And I could not stop talking.
Okay, in that scene, did you have to wheel into this scene? Did you wheel in the scene?
Okay, so I have this whole thing where I'm talking to Bailey and I'm giving her the what's what because I know things. Even though I'm like this young doctor who she's not used to, I'm like telling her what's what with this case. And then it was my idea to wheel out, like, and take that. And I'm gonna go off on my roller skates. And I knew how to do that, but I didn't know how to stop. So I could start and I could roll, but
Oh my
I
God,
couldn't
that's so
stop.
funny. Oh
So
my
Jeff,
God.
who's in props, definitely not the department that catches actresses when they're on runaway wheels, looks at me and he's like, "Do you need help?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "Well, what do you need?" And I was like, "I need you to catch me."
Oh
What?
my
I was like,
God.
"I'm gonna wheel, and then
I
I'm
need a
gonna need you to
net.
catch me. I'm gonna need you to stop me. I'm gonna need a net or an umbrella or a hook or I don't know what,
Yeah.
but you gotta stop me." And he was like,
Oh my God.
"Okay." And so he caught me, and yeah, that was like my first episode, and it was just I remember it being pure fucking magic. It was so much fun, and all I wanted was more, more, more. Give me more lines, give me more storyline. I was Is this called Grey's Anatomy or Robin's Anatomy? Let's go.
Wait, hang on. My own fan question. When did you know that Arizona was going to be with Callie?
I so I didn't know. I mean, obviously, the key to staying on Grey's Anatomy is having a love interest. And I was on a 3 episode arc that was all medical. Like I didn't, besides having this sort of like contentious relationship that, resolved itself with Bailey, I worked with Justin, and he was always like very friendly and kind. Um, and Katie Heigl was definitely making her exit on some level. I think I knew that a little bit in the back of my head. But again, 3 episodes, like you're not there for that long. I didn't know. And I was like, I mean, I hope I stay longer. I hope they keep me here for longer.
Yeah.
But my episodes they're running out. And I I remember there being a table read where it was like, oh, something big's gonna happen in that. This is where my memory gets foggy. I can't remember if it was at I wonder if we can check this. I don't know if we kiss in the 3rd episode
Hey.
that I was on, or if they kept me
Okay.
on to then have the kiss in the 4th episode. But basically, I'd been there for felt like I was going to be there for more, but you didn't know how or why.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to stay for a 4th episode. And then and again, you know, you don't stay on the show unless you're romantically involved with someone. So I was like, but I
Yeah.
didn't expect it to come so soon. And then we get there for a table read for this fourth episode I'm in, and reading, and we get to this scene where Callie's character is like going through all this stuff, and she's at Joe's bar, and she goes into the bathroom, and Arizona, who you've seen in the past 3 episodes, is standing there, and she has this seemingly out of nowhere connection with her where she says, you know, because Callie's crying in the bathroom, and she says, you know, something to the effect of like, I know that, you know, a lot of people are talking about you, but you should know that the talk is good. And then she kisses her.
I mean, I know this scene. This scene's very iconic. And I know because you're kind of talking about like, you know, you wouldn't have known where you were going to go necessarily with romance on the show. Those two characters together, it's hard to picture, especially in those days, you guys being with other people. And I know that there
I
ended
know.
up being other people, but at that stage, it was like a done deal. I feel like that kiss just was like, and you're staying.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
it's just so crazy. And you can't predict those things. You can't predict that kind of chemistry.
no, you cannot. You cannot. Yeah. And it just sort of, it just worked. I mean, again, you can't explain it. I mean, that's why people say it's like there is a certain magic to this business where you put, you know, different actors together or different characters or different circumstances, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a
And then it
testament to
became
the
Calzona.
writers on
And then
our
I was
show.
really confused about Calzona because the whole like shipping of names was starting. And I was like, isn't the calzone like a folded up pizza? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be our
Yeah.
ship?
I
It would
didn't
be
know
like
what shipping was, by the way, until the Grey's Anatomy. Until I was
Did
on
it
the
start
show.
with that? Did Grey's start the shipping?
That's, you know what? We're going to throw that back out to them.
Mhm.
They will know where that started.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. I love the Q&As. They make you remember things that you don't think about very often because it's all coming back to me, all coming now. Oh, my other gift is I don't remember lyrics. I can
Do
remember
you
lines.
remember anything?
Can't remember
Okay.
lyrics.
Anyway, let's call it.
I'm like Dory.
You are like Dory. You are like Dory.
Okay, this has been a pleasure. Thank you to all. You all are allowing us to do what we love the most. Keep those questions coming, and we will keep the answers coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's call it short and sweet.